Hey, RRT family, Ryan Reynolds here with Keller Williams Consultants Realty. And today I want to share with you an interview that I did with Paul Pfeiffer of Northwest Financial Planning. Now, Paul is my financial planner, and he helps me with all of my investments and actually my retirement planning and all of that stuff. He's actually a good friend too. So it was a pretty good conversation, and I thought the information was great. So I thought I would share it with all of you. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out after the video, and have a great day.
Hello and welcome to Northpoint's community series, featuring 5 questions today with Ryan Reynolds with the Ryan Reynolds team. There you go, Ryan. So a little bit about Ryan before we get into it. Ryan is an engineer by trade, but turned realtor. And he's the owner of the Ryan Reynolds team, which is a Keller Williams Consultants Realty firm. His team consistently sells over 100 homes per year and works primarily with the northern regions of Columbus. Ryan also invests in real estate and owns property management company that's focused in Delaware County. He's a dad of 3 boys who I know well, and Nathan and Sam and Joe, and his much better half obviously is Kim. So so Ryan, welcome to
Thanks.
5 questions with Ryan Reynolds, and wanted to kind of jump
good.
right in because I know you are a real estate professional, and my clients as well as many people have a lot of questions about the real estate market. So the first question I have for you is first of all, are we in a boom or a bust market right now for real estate?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I get that question all the time. So I can tell you, I can show you some stats. So let me show you my screen. Since I'm a engineer, I'm pretty analytical, and I like to go into talking about the data. So the first thing I want to talk to you or show you about is home sales. So when we look at home sales, one of the things we think about boom or bust, we're thinking about, okay, are we in this bubble that's about to burst? That's really what people care about, because if it is, then maybe that makes some different decisions that they might make. And when you look at this chart, this is going back to 1990 and shows the number of home sales in millions. And it shows the period right leading up to the 2007, 2008 bust, and then also in blue, and then it also shows this period of time in the last 5 years. And so basically what you're seeing is that last year, 2021, was the second most sales we've ever had in the United States, 6.1 million sales. This year, they're predicting about 5.9 million, so a little bit less sales. And that's depending on a bunch of factors, obviously. But that's kind of where sales are right now. So when we look at that, immediately you start thinking, okay, well, if we look at that 5-year period from 02 to 06, there was 28.2 million sales those years. And you look at the same period from 18 to 22, it's almost exactly the same. So to think that this might be a bust period of time where it's going to burst the bubble might actually have some value. If we look at home prices for the last few years, one of the biggest things, or actually in that same time period since 1990, one of the things you can see is we had that period from 1990 to really 2005, where things were fairly steady. In 05 and just a few years leading up to that, it got kind of crazy. And then 06 to 11 was the burst of the bubble. And then from 12 to 19, you see that we were fairly stable, but growing out. And then now in the last few years, last 3 years specifically, they're showing a 9% in 2020, 17% this 2021 is what we had experienced, and they're sort of predicting another 9% year coming up. So again, that sort of supports the fact that we might be in a burst. That said, here's the main difference and why I don't think we're going to be in a bubble. If you look back in that 2006 to 2009 time period, our inventory, or in other words, the number of homes we had on the market, and what this is measured by is the number of months of supply. And so supply and demand economics, pretty basic stuff. You can see back in 06, 07, 08, we had a building supply. We had topped out at 10.4 months of supply. And when they say months of supply, what that means is essentially, if nothing comes on the market, how long does it take to sell out the current inventory? But you can see in 2021, we were down at 2.3 months, which is just about the least number of homes we've ever had on the market. And so that tells you right away that this is different than 2007, and that the fundamentals of the market are quite a bit different. The way we kind of got here is that with this low inventory is that in 2007, when the market burst, we stopped building homes at the rate we were building, which was about 1 million homes per year. And this is all nationally, by the way. And so you can see from 2008 to really 2020, we didn't build the number of homes that we would have needed to build to keep up with population growth and household growth. And so we're just finally back. So there's this huge gap really from 2008 to 2019 or 20 that is showing that we didn't have enough homes. And so that's what led to that inventory sort of shortage. So the answer to your question, the long answer to your question is no, I don't think we're in for a burst of the bubble, but I'm not necessarily saying we won't have them, but the data does not seem to indicate that we'll be there.
Sure, and that's interesting, especially with inflation potentially coming into play, and maybe interest rates going up. How would the interest rates, potentially higher mortgage rates, impact buyers of new homes in the future here?
Yeah, so mortgage rates obviously impact how much people who are getting a mortgage can purchase. I mean, there's people who get mortgages and people who pay cash, and there's a surprising amount that pay cash right now, especially. But just to go back and look at some more specific data, if we look at the mortgage rates from 1972 through last year, the average was 7.81%. So I know my first house, I was actually at about 7.5%, and that felt like amazing because we were just coming off this time when things were up in the 16s. If you look just at the period from 1990 to 2020, the average is almost 6%, 5.97. And you can see right now, last year, we were at 2.96%. On a monthly basis, the variation since 2015, you can kind of take a look and see that we really bottomed out about last spring when things really boosted or boomed. So that 17% price appreciation we saw probably came from the low interest rates. And they popped up here in the last few weeks. And of course, as we're recording this, the last few days, we've had the invasion of Russia, or Russia invading Ukraine. And so people had been planning on interest rates going up because of inflation. The whole Russia thing may slow down that number.
Gotcha.
And so I should ask you about the stock market, how we should think about that, but which is not a question we talked about.
Exactly.
But in any case, mortgage rates are on the rise. They're predicted to go up through the next few months. And if you look at that from an affordability perspective, what that does is the higher the interest rates, the less affordable a house is, the more the mortgage costs. When you look at affordability since 1970, this graph shows the percentage of your income that it takes to pay for your mortgage based on interest rates and some assumptions. So up until about 2009, it was above 20% since the 1970s. And since then, because interest rates really came down, it dropped down. And now last year, we were at 16% of income to actually pay for your mortgage. And that's pretty low. So going back to your burst bust question again, this is showing that homes are affordable still, historically speaking, even though the prices are going up, the mortgage payments on a monthly basis aren't too crazy.
Well, I mean, dovetailing on the mortgage rates, the second part of that would be, of course, general inflation. And housing prices obviously have inflated over the years. Where do you see that headed? And what are some of the reasons behind that?
So inflation-wise, from a national standpoint, actually, I have some more slides on that I can show. The inflation is obviously ticked up in the last few months, and not a few months, really in the last couple of years. So last year, core inflation was at 5.5, and CPI was at 7.04, which is way higher than it's been since the 1990s, and really probably since the 1980s. And the government does not like that. Democrats don't like that. Republicans don't like that. Nobody likes that. And so I think what they're doing is they're projecting inflation to come back down by 2024 to 2 points, or to around the 2% range. And realistically, the government's going to force that to happen, whether it's through higher interest rates or through anything else. The Russian thing again will impact this, and so the ability of the government to impact it may be slightly reduced, or also have some other factors. So. But as inflation goes on, house prices go up. Houses are a hedge, and actually real estate in general are a hedge against inflation, meaning that they go up at or higher than the percentage of inflation. And so last year, like we said, we saw, I think it was 17% inflation. The CPI only went up 7%. So that's a good indication that if you own real estate, it's a good thing because that's sort of protecting your wealth.
And Ryan, do you see the potentially the rising Fed rate, which impacts the loan rates? Do you see that creating a little bit of a drag on asset prices as the cost of affordability maybe goes up a little bit because the housing prices are elevated and the mortgage rates go up? So does that put some counter pressure on that?
For sure. I mean, the biggest factor in anybody's mortgage is the actual rate. I think the statistic is that you can go up $10,000 in price for something, and that is equivalent to about a 0.5% reduction in interest rate. So vice versa, as things go up 0.5%, the real feel is that it went up $10,000 in terms of the amount.
Okay. The other question, again, you mentioned it a little bit earlier, was cash buyers, or at least cash offers. Talk a little bit about the why people are making cash offers, how that maybe positions them better in the marketplace.
Yeah, for sure. So when someone pays cash in a real estate transaction, actually on closing day, it's all cash. So whether somebody's getting a loan, or most of the time, there's a few times it may not be, but only in really unusual situations. But if somebody's getting a loan on closing day, they're giving cash to the seller. So at the end of the day, at closing, there's no difference between a cash offer and a purchase offer, or I mean a loan offer. The difference comes when you talk about number one, competition. So when people are competing, if someone is paying cash versus someone who's getting a loan, the way that we advise our clients to think about that is that the person who's getting a loan has a lot more risk, because in that loan, there is the possibility that they either won't get approved for the loan. There's a possibility that the appraisal could come back in low and they won't get approved for as much of the loan as they would need to purchase the house for cash on that closing day. And there's even the chance that the bank could go out of business. You never know what could happen, but between the time the loan application starts and the closing happens, there's a pretty substantial degree of risk that may not actually happen. So when a seller is evaluating offers, the reason cash is king is because there's less risk in cash.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense, but because you hear a lot about that, and from a negotiating standpoint, when these offers start coming in, I guess you just want to have your offer valued as high as possible. So now I have a really tough question for you, and we've been talking about all this business and all this kind of good stuff, but Ryan, tell me what you do for fun.
Well, I do spreadsheets for fun. I'm just kidding.
You
talked to a lot of people that I know, they probably think spreadsheets are my thing. The biggest thing I do for fun, I like spend time with my family and doing stuff outdoors. Boating is probably really high on my list of things that I love to do. And primarily because it's outside and with the family, so it combines all of the things that I like to do. So that's probably my biggest thing. Pardon?
Where do you boat?
So we have a place down Lake Cumberland in Kentucky that we go to quite a bit. And the legend goes, so the place in Kentucky, I think maybe I've told you this story at one time, but the legend goes that my father-in-law's dad was playing a poker game. He was a general contractor in Dayton, Ohio. And all the contractors would get together to play poker periodically. And one of those games, one of the guys was in a divorce situation and didn't want the wife to have these lots at Lake Cumberland that she had, or that they had. So it became a bet in the poker match or poker game, and my, I guess, grandfather-in-law won those somehow in that game. So ever since then, her family, Kim's family, has been going to Lake Cumberland, and then I joined the family 20 some years ago, and have been going there ever since.
So I'll look forward to my my boating invitation down there soon.
Sure.
So, but
Anytime.
well, Ryan, this is great. I mean, hopefully the viewers enjoyed this. This is our first time kind of going through this, and obviously Ryan is easy to get to know guy. So if you want to reach out to him, I'll put the contact information below. As one of my favorite YouTubers says, make sure you smash that like button. We'll do more of these community series where we ask 5 questions, even though technically I did ask more than 5 questions, but hopefully everyone enjoyed this. And Ryan, thank you again for being part of this, and I'll look forward to talking to everybody next time.
Well, thanks so much, man. Appreciate it. Have a good afternoon.